Welcome back, everyone, and this is going to be our last panel for the day. Well, our last panel not only for the day, but for our convention here. And it's going to be about selecting a trainer. As if you're an owner, there's probably no more important decision you're going to make, and that's the person that you're going to hitch your wagon to, the trainer. This isn't harness racing, not that kind of wagon, but the trainer is obviously a key member of the team. This panel is sponsored by Conley. Let's see what they have to say.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Keeneland September Yearling Sale.
A terrific maternal pedigree, Grade 1 winners, and champions across the pitch.
Echo Zone Parties. Life is good. Next go, superstar.
Go to the back. Good luck.
Let's welcome back to the stage Carolyn Conley. Carolyn.
I think it is. Are we on? You know what?
You're on.
I think this is meant to be my mic. I moved over a chair. All right. So as Tom mentioned, one of the key responsibilities for owners is selecting a trainer. And Tom was absolutely right. It's one of the most important relationships you'll have in this business. An open, respectful, transparent, and reciprocal relationship goes a long way when trainers plan races for their owners' horses, and owners want feedback about the horse's health, performance, and their careers. Likewise, a relationship based on poor communication is stressful and not at all productive. So it's important to get that communication sort of set up in advance. And we're about to hear from those in the know when it comes to owner-trainer relationships. The good, the bad, the challenges, and the reality of it all. So first up, she is a longtime entrepreneur and philanthropist and combines her love of equestrianism and passion for advocating women's leadership through her Brown Road partnership. And she also co-owns Old Tavern Farm, a boutique thoroughbred breeding farm that she co-founded with her husband. Please welcome to the stage Michelle Barisanock. Hi, Michelle.
Thank you.
Anywhere you, how about right here next to me? Okay, our next panelist is a trainer who hails from Kentucky. He has been retired about a year now, and he's in sales development at Keeneland. He would tell you family is central to his success, and he has developed a reputation for success with horses with moderate pedigrees, notably $2 million earner Brass Hat. Recent stars include Groupie Doll, 2-time Breeders' Cup filly and mare sprint winner, who also was twice named champion female sprinter, and Divisadero. Please give a warm welcome to Buff Bradley. Hi, Buff. Next up is managing partner of Curra Stables, and this is a racing stable he began in 2005. He also oversees Curra Thoroughbreds, based right here in Saratoga, and his day job takes him into New York City with private investment firm Curra Capital, where he's responsible for overseeing firm investments across multiple industries. Join me in welcoming Michael Devlin. Michael, here you go. So this trainer grew up across the road from the farm where the family horses were boarded. What a lucky guy. Near Finger Lakes Racetrack in Western New York. He worked under Hall of Fame trainer Woody Stevens until 1990, and when he started training his own string of horses full-time. He trained turf runner Awad to a trio of Grade 1 wins, and also conditioned such graded stakes winners as Pennine Ridge, Incurable Optimus, and Sharp Performance. Welcome to the stage, David Donk. And had a couple of nice winners on Sunday at Saratoga. So That's always fun. And then finally, we get her back. She wasn't able to join us for our panel yesterday, but she is here today. She pinhooked 2-year-olds to pay her way through college, and she now advises clients on matings and mare purchases. Please welcome Marette Farrell. Okay, so we're going to kind of group our questions in this particular panel. Marette, Michelle, and Michael are going to be sort of our subjects to begin with here. And the first question is, it can take many years to find that perfect trainer that works well with any particular owner. Michelle, what do you look for in a trainer?
Hi, starting with Brown Road Racing, we are a women's organization. My mission is to educate women and bring them in the backstretch to see what goes on with the horse from the beginning to the sale, to training, to racing. And what I look for in a trainer is that we're in the same alignment with our ideals. Is the trainer transparent? Do we communicate well? Sorry.
The basics, no, that's all
You're
good.
right.
How about you, Michael?
Yes, so I would agree, same thing. It's kind of like any business relationship, certainly at first. Trust is probably the biggest factor in it. You really need to meet somebody that you can trust, certainly get along with. You're going to be spending a lot of time hopefully communicating with this person. Hopefully you get to the track and the barns enough that you get to spend a lot of time with them and the horses. So for me, the trust factor is pretty much number one, integrity behind that. I know there was a lot of talk about reputation. I think that's a tough one because you never know who's putting the soundbite out there about people. So you got to do a lot of your own due diligence, I think.
It's been a tricky time for that. Marette, what do you look for?
Well, I, as an agent, am sort of the intermediary person. So my focus is to look at the owner and see what the owner's orientation is. So, are they New York people? Well, Dave Donk's my guy here. Is the claiming game something that piques their interest? Or then you look for somebody that's a highlight of what they do. Is it somebody that wants to develop a turf horse? So I try to focus it, I try to be the liaison between the owners and the trainer, make the path easy for the trainer. So, and then the owner, I try to take the weight off the trainer, explain things to the owner, give him ideas, and, just try and make it better for everybody.
Wonderful. And when selecting a trainer, the question is, how much emphasis do you put toward the trainer's win percentage? Also, in the money percentage, stakes success, number of horses in the barn, number of years training, etc.
At Brown Road Racing, we're all about the experience. We don't put much into the winning and so on. We look for the trainer to educate us, and we find the passion that comes with that. We eventually do wind up in the winner's circle. We were in the winner's circle twice, but again, our emphasis is on education. And
how about you, Michael?
Yeah, so I think the stats are a great tool to look at. Obviously, OwnerView has some great information, Equibase, you can see the racing form has all this. But then it depends, I think, on that trainer's barn. You have some trainers who have hundreds of horses, and maybe they're just putting their top ones out there. Maybe they have a little more advantage to get that percent up there. But clearly, you want to see someone who is regularly racing, at least in the money percentage up there. But again, I put that a little lower than the integrity side of it.
Yes, statistics are a good way of assessing a trainer, but we all know people that develop horses. So they give a horse an educational run, and I think the owners need to be aware of that they have individualized the program for each horse, and the statistics for them aren't as important as getting the best out of each horse. And I think an owner, when you're coming into this, you need to be aware of that.
I'll follow up on that
Please
one too.
do.
There's a number of times we just say, we got to get a race into them. So you're kind of going in with the expectation that, okay, we're not going to hit the board, but you got to start at some point, and it's an education for especially the younger ones. It's you got to get educated.
Absolutely, and that was done more often than not before we had so much racing television, and statistics became the easy way to describe a trainer, you know, and so that became pounded into our head every minute what their win percentage was, rather than maybe what they do with particular horses day by day to bring them along, and what their program is in terms of the starting gate and what kind of understanding they have of their horses and what sort of time frame they look at getting a 2-year-old to the races. Is it early in the year? Is it late in the year? You know, there's been so much pressure, and Marette, I love what you say about developing horses, because that it can be overlooked very easily, and as you're getting in the game, you're often very eager to run. But if you're not allowing your trainer to develop the horse properly, you're going to have nothing left when it comes down to it. So that's
Physically
essential.
developing the horse and mentally. So it might need time for layup, and we just have to explain that to our partners, that it's in the best interest of the horse.
So let's move on to communication then. And of course, communication is key to the owner-trainer relationship. Give me an idea of how often you and the trainer communicate, Michelle.
We communicate frequently because I have partners. It's very important. Race day, no, let's start with training. When the horse is in training, say it's going to be breezing, our trainer will let us know that we'll be breezing at a particular time. I'll call in my partners who can make it this day, and we'll come out there, and it's such an experience for them to see them train. Race day, we will get an advance notice saying it's a possible entry, and then an entry will come in, and I'll notify my partners, and my partners get so excited. And then we follow the journey onto the racetrack, wherever it might be, usually within the NYRA grounds. And after, we'll cheer on the race all together, and then after the race, the trainer will touch base with me again to let me know what was the expectations and how our horse did. And then a few days, actually the next day, our trainer will contact us again. So communication is key to let us know how the horse is physically. How did he or she come out of the race? I'm not sure if I answered the question.
You did perfectly.
But it's an exciting part, and it's a journey. Thank you.
Michael?
I would say when I first got into this, it was almost every day, and you're going, no, you're getting all the details. He stepped on a pebble, this happened, that happened. Then it becomes too much information, and it's let the trainer do what the trainer does. I would say at minimum it's a monthly. Sometimes we get into a weekly call. We typically run about 12 horses at a time in training, and so we kind of go down the list and get the idea of where some potential race dates are coming up. And because we've got about 10, 12 guys in our partnership, and so I got to keep them informed as well. Some people are good with less information. Some want it more often. Technology is great. You can, Equibase has the virtual stable. You can plug your horses in that, get a lot of information that way. This time of year, it's much more often because a lot of people are here. We want to see them in the morning training and doing that. So it fluctuates, but both sides have to be comfortable with the flow.
Marette, do you liaise in that regard as well?
I do, yes, because I do some management with some of the horses that I have. So I see my role. I do not interfere with what the trainer does. They are experts at what they do, and it's very important to let them do their job. But what I try to do is I see my role as going out there, I see the horses train, and is there something maybe we can tweak, or is there, something that we can do better to help the horse perform better? And then I do, fun is a huge part of this game. All of you are here to have a good time. So I also see my role as somebody I'll take photos, I'll do some video, we'll throw in fun something or other. And all of us, you have ownership in this game for a reason. You want to enjoy your horse. And it's not just about winning that race, it's about the steps leading up to the race. What goes right, but what goes wrong? How do we overcome that? You know, fun little, they might buck and play. You know, I think it's important for people in my role to allow you to participate in that and enjoy, like we said.
And I'd like to know from the trainers up here, David and Buff, you know, how much is too much? What can you live with communication-wise? Like, what's comfortable for you guys?
Well, I guess it really depends on how many horses that you might be training for 'em. I usually like to talk to my owners once a week. And then, as mentioned earlier, you know, text messages, they're simple, they're easy. But I think if you don't talk to them personally on the phone or in person, I think you lose a lot of the fun and the communication for both parties.
Mm-hmm. What about you, David?
Yeah, it's different with everyone. Everyone is an individual. You know, I'm fortunate, I've been doing it a long time. I have some clients that have had a long time, so there's that very close relationship. I think initially it starts with how much an owner wants to be in touch. Is it by a phone call? Is it by text? Is it by email? Yeah, at least letting them know on when we're going to breeze, how it turned out, what I thought of it. You know, trying to be very transparent, but at the same time, most everyone has a real job. So I like to let my clients reach out to me at their convenience. And, you know, it depends. Some people like to be in contact every few days. Some people, it's once a week. Geez, I've got some clients I don't talk to very often, probably. But, you know, that's just the relationship. So I'd say it's on an individual basis. But obviously, communication is the key to everything.
Perfect. We've talked a lot, too, about what we look for in a trainer. But, Michelle, what is something that you don't want to see that might make you avoid choosing a particular trainer?
It's difficult to say right now because most of my horses that we have in our stable are with NYRA, and NYRA sets high standards. So it's up to me to go behind the scenes, to go into the stables, make sure that the horse's coat is shiny, his eyes or her eyes are clear, the shoes are fine. I look at the vet bills to make sure that the farrier has been there. Pretty much that, but also the question was if to dismiss a trainer?
Yes.
If your partnership might change and you're not the member manager, when you initially went to a trainer and now that partnership has dissolved, but you're responsible for the horse and you feel that you have a good networking connection with another trainer and you feel that instinct is alive and feel better if your horse got relocated. I've had a circumstance where that happened to me, where the partnership dissolved and I felt better at another trainer, and so I relocated the horse. But it was nothing against the original trainer. It was just my original instinct said, this is the right trainer for this horse, and with the group that I'm with right now, with our partners.
Michael?
If for me, it would be any mistreatment of the horses or the folks working in the barns too. I mean, you can go back there and they're open and you see how the stalls are clean and all that. And like she said, how are the horses looking? And fortunately, I haven't seen any of that, but yeah, to me, if I found out about any mistreatment,
That would be a deal breaker for sure. Marette?
I would try to be very loyal to my trainers and trust that they're trying to do the right thing for the horses. I think it might be a mutual thing in the end of the day. If you're not happy, they're obviously not happy. So you both go your separate ways. But I think, as we've talked about, if all of you do preparation and you research your trainer, I would hope that it wouldn't come to that point.
Right, right.
Yes.
And
we have to do our due diligence, you know, to
Absolutely.
look, listen, and really investigate.
And when a client comes or goes, or a trainer comes or goes, if you keep the relationships good, it might come all the way back around. You never know. So people do come back, and that can play into how that departure goes, I'm sure. So let's see. Which decisions are up to the trainer, and which would you consider need to be made jointly between the trainer and owner?
Well, the trainer is the expert in his field, so I leave the majority of the journey of the horse to the trainer. I respect his opinion as we move forward with the journey. What was the second part of that question? I'm sorry.
I have to put my glasses back on. Let's see. Which decisions would be made jointly?
I think the long-term goal of the horse, she'll tell us if it's time to have a layup or to retire, and I think those decisions are made jointly. Maybe a race that you might want the horse, he might want the horse to be in. Our trainer would consult and say, this is where we'd like it to be, and I think that's a joint decision as well, if you feel comfortable entering the horse in that race. But ultimately, it's the trainer. I don't micromanage, and I let him do what he needs to do and to proceed with the horse in its journey.
Mm-hmm. Joint decisions, Marette?
I'm all about joint decisions. I think that's very important. It's part of the relationship that you have with the trainer. I think they are working with that horse every day. They know where they want the horse to go as regards developing him and looking for a race. So I would imagine it's always something that you do together.
Yeah, I suppose an example might be a filly. You're trying to get black type, and you're going to sell her in the November sale.
Right.
As a broodmare prospect. So you're looking for stakes maybe in jurisdictions with a little easier company, or you're doing things like that.
Yeah.
Those could be joint decisions based on your business plan.
Right, absolutely.
Yeah. Yep, very good. All right, so best advice you can give in selecting a trainer and having a strong relationship with that trainer, Michelle?
Communication, go visit the trainer, talk with him. Follow your passion with the horse. Do what's in the best interest of the horse. Just follow the journey, because if you follow the passion, everything else falls into its place.
Michael?
Hopefully your personalities fit. You got to get along in any relationship, and someone said, like, water and oil don't mix. And if you don't have some commonality that you can find, it's going to be difficult. So have fun with it, enjoy it. There's a whole lot more to this than just that one race. So you got to have fun. You got to manage your expectations, because more likely than not, you're going to lose more races than you're going to win. And hopefully you like roller coaster rides, because there's a lot of ups and downs in this.
And Marette, I would imagine you don't always select the trainer because you're working with clients who may have an existing trainer.
Yes, a lot of the times that's inbuilt. So
the art of persuasion, perhaps? I don't know. What do you think, David? I know she has some horses managed with you.
Yeah, Marette's done a great job picking out horses. Fortunately, she doesn't manage mine. Listen, there's a lot of ways. You're picking a trainer is, I think the first thing is, everyone that's here, what is your introduction into racing? Some people, it's when they were younger, they went to the track with their father or mother, the family. A lot of people early in life can't own horses until they're a little more successful, especially once you get the kids through college. What are your goals? What do you want to do? Do you enjoy the 2-year-olds? Do you just want to be in the claiming game? I know we'll get into partnerships and stuff. So, how much risk can you have? How diversified do you want to be? So, yeah, there's a lot of questions to be answered.
Any thoughts on that, Buff, before we move to the Buff and David section of our...
Well, no, I think that they're right with everything they're saying. The number one thing is communication and jiving with the partner.
Mm-hmm. And I suppose going in knowing what's important to you. Like, is it important to you to be in a stable that's very fancy and spick and span, or do you want a more down-to-earth setting? Is it important to you that horses are on a schedule that's the same every day, or can you work with a little less continuity? There's different styles in the backstretch in terms of how people do things. So I suppose backstretch visits would be helpful as well. Well, Buff and David, as trainers, you have the responsibility of not only training an owner's horses, but also to keep the same owners informed of the progress of each horse. And this is a challenging balancing act. And how would you say you can be successful doing that? Buff?
Well, we talked about that earlier, and I think that, how often you talk to them, as David said, it really depends on the client. But, keeping in communication with them and doing it through text, emails. I always found that even after I've talked to some of my owners, that I would like to send them a follow-up email saying, this is what we've discussed and this is our plan. Just so I have it down, I can go back and reference it, because I've had to do that several times.
Remind them of what the plan was.
Yeah, maybe resend the email.
David?
Yeah, we're getting older, both. Again, it's individual. Is it especially a new owner? How enthusiastic they are, how involved, how many people they might be involved with. Whether it's partners, whether you're a managing partner, and it doesn't always have to just be the managing partner. Even if you own a piece of one, sometimes you just want to be a little bit more involved. You want to educate yourself. It's certainly a process. So the communication is, what are we starting with? Are we starting with a 2-year-old? Let's say it was broken, trained in Ocala, comes to us in April or May. There's a lot of things that can go on. There's a lot of baby things, but it's just nice to be communicated with everyone and understand the process. Are you happy with that process? Is that something you want to do? What are your goals? What are you trying to achieve? And then there's people that are in the claiming game, just trying to, one of the biggest things in Saratoga is, the biggest pressure is, a lot of people want to get in the winner's circle. And some people will spend 10 to make one. They don't care unless they get the winner's circle. Are we going to look at it a little more economically and try to do right by the horse and develop a horse? It's great to win. It's even better if you just get to run here. But, again, the focus is long-term. And it's just communicating that and whatever that individual, that partnership, that stable is comfortable with.
Come a long way from Charlie Whittingham's way of treating them like mushrooms, feeding them manure and keeping them in the dark. Charlie would say that with a twinkle in his eye, but that was as much. And Bobby Franco, wasn't the rumor that if the owner wanted to know if the horse was in, they could look in the racing form?
Probably. Bobby didn't talk to many people.
He was like candy, hard on the outside, soft underneath. But the pros and cons of training for a partnership, that we've kind of talked about sole ownership in a sense in terms of the trainer's experience. But when you have a partnership, what if there's 25 people in the partnership and they all want to come ask you questions? How do you deal with that, Buff?
Well, what I always did is we looked for a managing partner, and I communicated with that person. And that's the way to do it, because, we don't have time to talk to 25 different people. And you want it, the other thing is email, even if it's a mass email to all the partners, if the managing partner's okay with doing that. I always felt that was good because everybody got the same story that way. Because, by the time I tell Michelle and she tells you and it goes down the line, it gets changed up a bit. So I always think that probably that's the best way to do it, is to have a managing partner and or send out a mass email.
You agree?
Yeah, you have different styles. So a syndicate could be 30, 40 owners. A partnership could be 2, 3, 4, 5. So, yeah, listen, a lot of my partnerships are people that I've had sometimes a long time, and then new people that are added to that. It's easy to communicate, obviously texting, and most everyone in that middle-aged or whatever is very tech-savvy, so it's quite easy. You know, and then a syndicate, usually you're dealing with a manager, but I like to encourage people. We don't see as many owners. I always say I will see a lot of my owners for 8 weeks in Saratoga, and I will not see them the rest of the year, even though I'm based in New York full-time. But, you know, I encourage people to come out in the morning. You know, if they're licensed, I think the rule is 3% or more, you can get a license, you get your badge, your spouse gets your badge, your family can. You know, one of the biggest appeals of racing is the morning. There's nothing like a morning on the backside in Saratoga. So, yeah, it's just different communication. However that manager wants to handle it sometimes, if there's a lot of them. And if it's a small management group, it's, you know, it's pretty easy to reach out to people and encourage them to be a part of it. Listen, we want you all to enjoy it. Hopefully love it as much as we do, because it's pretty addicting.
Yeah, I agree with David. You know, we always like to see the owners come out and the partners, just so they can experience it too. That's their fun of it, and it's good to see them out there. So, and communicating with the grooms and the exercise riders, I mean, it's kind of nice to see those out there.
And tipping them occasionally.
Yeah, and getting a few tips.
Kind of a lost art, but it's still well appreciated.
They'll bring a box of donuts or something. Yeah. It's always good.
Yeah. Yeah, coffee, perfect.
That's good to hear you like us coming back there, because I did hear the one line about the trainer's worst nightmare is the owner with the condition book in his pocket. Any truth to that?
Well, we usually tell them if they got a condition book that we'll use it for hoof packing.
Good stuff. All right, so many horses will need a break at some point. Laying them up helps them recover and, you know, stay injury-free, but it can be tricky when an owner lays a horse up. Maybe the trainer doesn't get the horse back, so it seems maybe some trainers may not want to do that. You guys have had long relationships with your owners, so I wouldn't think that would have been an issue so much for you, but I know it affects a lot of younger trainers. What advice could you give them in terms of giving the horse the rest it needs and still hoping to get it back from the owner when it returns from the farm?
Well, that's the thing. I think a lot of times trainers don't want to send them to a farm that they're not familiar with, because if you're going to send a horse to the farm, you want them to be on a certain program, or you want them let down easy and so much turnout. Maybe you're trying to get some weight off the horse too, or put some weight on the horse. Just different things, and maybe have to take care of an injury or a problem that the horse might have. So I always suggest that any trainer have a relationship with a good rehab center or farm, or even if it's an owner's farm, at least you know they're going there, and then if you're able to check on it there even at the farm, it's good. I was always fortunate that I had my own farm and was able to take most of the horses there, so I could keep a pretty close eye on them. But I think trainers, you know, I think that owners should be able to tell the trainer, okay, let's decide on a farm, we'll send it there together. You make sure you're still managing it and letting them know how to care for it while it's in its off time.
David?
Yeah, listen, they're animals, so at some point there's going to need to be a break probably, and, you know, within a year cycle. So obviously a grass horse, I'm based in New York year-round, so a grass horse is an easy decision. At the end of November, they're going to get 60 days off, and then they're going to come back. Some of those might go to Florida to a farm, but there is pressure on younger people, I think, when you're starting out. Also, people that flip from the north to the south and go to Florida to the winter, maybe their turf horses don't get a break. But a lot of it comes with experience. It's something that should be discussed with a client, maybe from the beginning, especially if it's a 2-year-old. And, sometimes when you claim a horse, it's just not right. And 60 days does a lot of good in turning them out. Like all of us, some people need a vacation, some horses need a vacation. But again, that's communication, discussing it, and, everyone being on the same page and everyone comfortable with a decision that we all make.
Very good.
To make the best decision for the horse.
And more that's at the forefront of people's decision-making, which is so refreshing and really nice. But we're still faced sometimes with needing to get a horse in a spot where it can win. And that can mean putting it in a claiming race where the owner has to risk losing the horse. And I always thought that was not always the best interest of our sport, because we're teaching people to disconnect from their horses rather than connect. But the reality is, if you want to win races, you've got to put them where they can win. How do you talk an owner through that process, David?
Oh boy, that's the biggest one. You evaluate your horses. It's really difficult now. The game has changed a bit. I don't know how much everyone here watches the racing. There's a lot of claiming going on, and because people want horses. It's difficult to buy horses at the sales. The market has been very strong. We have different rules in different jurisdictions. I know the rules are real liberal in Kentucky compared to here about claiming horses. An owner there can claim 3 horses out of a race. Here, an owner can claim, and a trainer can only take 1 horse out of a race. So let's say we have, a horse that's really a $25,000 horse. But listen, if you ask me, is he going to get claimed? And I'm going to tell you, there's a possibility. Now, if he's 5-1 or less, there's a really good possibility. So I understand people trying to protect. Listen, I've got a lot of good clients. I had a discussion with a client the other day, and it was, I only have one rule that I'm adamant about getting paid. Good clients, I'm willing to, run them over their head a little bit to protect them, because I understand that side of it, because it's really difficult to replace a horse. If we lose a horse in a claiming race, and especially if it's your only horse, it's really hard to replace that horse, especially for $25,000. So, yeah, I understand that. I've got a lot of loyal clients, and I like to think I'm very loyal to them. So, yeah, again, back to win percentages, mine isn't going to be really big, because I'm going to try and do what's right by the horse and by the client. Maybe there's a certain time of year where we can drop that horse to $25,000.
But not the first week of Saratoga, where you have to drop to win, and all the claiming guys know it.
Yeah.
So they pounce.
And Rich Strike didn't help any trainer.
Yeah, it is a $30,000.
What did you say, Rich Strike, what?
Didn't help any trainer on trying to drop a horse.
Yeah. So, listen, you're trying to do right by the horse. And again, that's all consultation, discussion with your client. And listen, if we can run for 40 and be second, third, or fourth, we run for a lot of money. It pays a lot of bills. There's nothing wrong with getting a check all day long. So, at some point when a decision needs to be made to maybe drop that horse at a lower level, whether it's his performance, and sometimes you run a horse and he doesn't run as well, it's not hard to convince all of us that we need to drop it a notch.
Do you appreciate it when the racing office writes more starter races so you can protect horses and not lose them at the claim box?
Yeah, we don't see too much of that, because the races are written races that are fill, Carolyn. So a lot of those don't. Someday we need to restructure. I think it's maybe going to be way beyond me how we do it, the claiming races, because it is a negative part of what we do, trying to protect the horses, trying to run them where they belong, trying to keep everyone happy, trying to make you not lose your horse through the claiming box.
They used to have some starter series out in California that I loved, because you could kind of get hooked on those horses and attach to them and get behind them race after race.
Right, and the running them above their head does not help the win percentage on the trainer's part. And then, as we talked about earlier on the win percentages and how people look at those. Mm-hmm. So that doesn't help, and you're running a horse and you're probably over the head and you're probably going to run 5th or 6th, and if you ran at the right spot, you're not guaranteed to win, and it's going to get claimed.
Right. if you have volume, you can withstand it, but if you don't have volume, you can't withstand it. So that does sort of help you think of different things in terms of making a decision about choosing a trainer and what goes into those percentages and numbers. There's so much potential to have controversy in all these decisions. Buff, have you ever fired an owner?
Mutually, I've done that.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
but as I think we said earlier, that, if you're not happy, then I'm probably not happy, and, we need to go our own way. And you see it all the time. That's just part of it, that if you're not getting along, you need to move them on.
No, I'd have to say that's a good question. I've never fired an owner. I'm very fortunate, haven't lost many. Maybe a couple that it was a mutual decision. And listen, it has to be a rapport with all of us, right? When you meet people, you get that feeling. I say it's no different than your wife or girlfriend, or, it's no different than your landscaper. Are you happy with them? Is there rapport? Are they, is there communication? Are they doing what you'd like them to do? So I'll be honest, I had one manager, a long time ago. I don't think he's alive anymore. I had a great client. And when I took him, I was advised by my wife that this is not going to work. And I had a couple of good horses for him. And one day I just called him up and said, geez, I just can't do this anymore. And I'll be honest, it was the manager, and he didn't want to change because the guy had done it for him, had done a good job. And I'll be honest, I just said it's coming from here, and I needed to make that decision. But otherwise, no, I've never let an owner go.
Not Bobby Frankel style? No.
They don't want to leave him.
Apparently so. Well, treating 2-year-olds is an art, that's for sure. It's challenging sometimes to get a 2-year-old ready to race. Are they easier to train and more predictable at 3?
Well, it'll go back to what David was saying about, what's a person's goals on getting a horse ready. I always loved the young horses. I love training them. I didn't race many 2-year-olds, but I like training them and getting to know them, and then giving them their time off and let them develop. So, I think it was, after I did that, it was easier to train them at 3. I think you could go on with them. You could have a little bit better of a plan. Usually with the 2-year-olds, they're going to make you stop at some point.
Again, it's in picking your trainer. Every trainer's different. Everybody's got their own style. Some people are really successful with 2-year-olds. Are you adamant about winning 2-year-old races early, trying to win a stake in the summer like Saratoga? Are you into claiming horses? So, what are you good at? A lot of people are good at training 2-year-olds. How are they brought up? It's fun to watch trainers through the years and how they develop horses. Personally, I'd rather have 22-year-olds than 20 claimers. So I enjoy it, but it's very challenging. Everyone's got to be really patient. Again, it's a lot of discussion. They will make you wait. And if you wait on them and do the right thing, then you could have some pretty useful 3-year-olds.
What about staff when you have 2-year-olds, in the barn? They obviously are still learning at such a lightning pace. And I know right now it's very difficult to find quality exercise riders and grooms. How do you approach that, maybe within your own barn, in terms of placing help with certain horses and that sort of thing?
Well, I think you have to be that way with all of them, really. But as a young horse, you want to be there. You don't want to have a string of 2-year-olds somewhere else. A lot of times we'll get 2-year-olds that have come from a training center. So when we get them, they're at least up to breezing, a quarter or 3/8 of a mile anyhow. And so they've learned a lot. I think the trainer knows that he's got to be patient with them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it depends on the stable. How much experience people have with 2-year-olds. How many 2-year-olds do they have? When we're small and you start out and you only have a couple of them, it's really challenging because they want company. So, and the longer that someone's been doing it, they probably got a pretty good staff, pretty good riders, pretty good stable staff. And again, it's those guys that are probably a little more successful getting them to the races.
Through my years galloping racehorses in California, it became readily apparent that not every claiming trainer knows how to start a 2-year-old. So I think that's something to keep in mind as an owner. If you have selected a trainer that's so good at the claiming game, you might want to look and see what kind of statistics they've had with 2-year-olds or what kind of experience. Because honestly, I worked for guys that didn't know how to get them ready at the gate. But they'd have 2-year-olds in the barn. But they were claiming trainers, and they never had to concern themselves with teaching a horse how to handle the starting gate.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think there's a whole different approach to training young horses and developing them moving forward than claiming horses and having a claiming trainer. And I think that is important in choosing a trainer. Do they start them as 2 and not necessarily know the stats at 2, but knowing that they've had them from day 1, say as if they came to them as a 2-year-old.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that is very important to see what, which trainer develops them and if you're an owner wanting to play the claiming game, you get a different kind of trainer.
Right.
That's a whole other part. We don't think as a new owner, hearing, seeing the horse breeze and all that, but then how come he hasn't gotten a race yet? Well, he hasn't gotten his gate card yet.
Right.
First time hearing that, he's got and didn't like going through the gate, took a while for that. Then, he didn't school well in the paddock. And you don't think about those elements too early on. So a lot goes into it.
So many details along the way. And, you see stables that have horses at multiple jurisdictions, whereas in the old days, you might have a Charlie Whittingham with horses off-site at San Luis Rey Training Center, and a new owner would come and say, will you take my horse? And Charlie would say, well, I don't have room at the track, but I could put him down at San Luis Rey, or you can send him across the road to this guy who has 5 horses, who'll do a wonderful job for you, is very patient and very qualified. And we don't see quite as much of that now, like we did in the old days, do we?
No, probably not. No, and one reason is because some of the stables are so big. I mean, they can take them. So
right.
They're going to go Division 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, whatever. So, yeah, but there's a reason why they picked that trainer.
Right.
And, that's an owner's decision, whatever their comfort level is, whatever they're looking to do, how much money they spent. But, yeah, that comes down to the owner.
Right. Finding out what works for you. We have a couple minutes left. Do you guys feel compelled to add anything specific about maybe selecting a trainer?
Yeah, I would say that, I've trained for a long time, such as David, and we know a lot of trainers out there. We know a lot of them. They're our friends. I've been in a lot of barns, and now I have moved away from the training part and an owner, so I'm kind of looking on selection too. I can say that most every one of them are good horsemen, most every one of them, and they've come up right, and they try to do the right thing. So I think the biggest thing is communication, finding the communication, find who you like, go to the barn, meet with them, see how their barns, you hang out at the barn, see how a trainer treats his help. I think that's important, seeing how they're organized and seeing that the mood in the barn. You see the horses at the front of the stall, and there's a lot of different things that you could pick up on even if you're not really educated. So, I think that's important to just maybe hang out first for a time or two and do what everybody said in every part of this 2-day event here is, do your homework, check on people, look at owner view, make sure that person's right for you.
Any final thoughts?
Yeah. Listen, it's no different if you're going to buy a car. You're gonna do your research. You're gonna look into them. What you like about it, what add-ons. A trainer. It's the same way. There's going to be a comfort level. Again, it's how is your introduction today into the sport, and who do you know, and ask people, ask other clients if you're around. Just notice things. Go to the paddock. You can ask, anyone. You can ask fans, officials, other trainers. There's a lot of really good young trainers. We need them. We need more of them. We need more 20, 30 horse stables. Listen, a lot of the super trainers are really, really good friends of mine. But to make racing go and field size go, we need more trainers. We need more owners. But there's a lot of good young people. Look at their work ethic. See if they're happy. Listen, I drill my kids, find something that you like to do and you have a chance to be happy. Find something you love to do, you have a chance to really be successful. And, there's a reason a lot of us do it because we love it. There's nothing better. The track opens at 5:30 in the morning for the first set. Man, it's the greatest time of the morning. So, do you love it? My alarm goes off at 4:20 every day. I listen to guys complain. It's like, and another thing, we didn't get into here, maybe you have the other side, the HISA rules. The industry is going to change for the better. Listen, you never want government intervention, but I think it's going to be better. And everybody's going to do a better job. It's going to be a safer sport. And, pretty much everybody's going to be legit. So, do your homework. It depends on what your passion level is, too.
Well, we could turn it over to the audience for questions at this